Welcome to the weekly EdTech analysis from Webhostville Services. Our mission here is pretty simple. We're all about aligning technical infrastructure, pedagogical excellence, and institutional strategy specifically for African education. Now, we don't just track the news, we interpret it right through our Webhostville 4-pillar AI Readiness Framework. So let's cut through all the noise and figure out exactly what today's developments actually mean for your institution. This intelligence briefing synthesizes the really critical policy, infrastructure, and pedagogical developments that happened across Nigeria, Africa, and the global ecosystem between August 17th and the 24th, 2026. And we are looking at some major movements today. We're diving into the launch of the federal government and NITDA National AI Academy, the massive independent auditing demands on high-stakes assessment platforms like YAC, and those huge professional capacity convenings happening over at the Africa Teachers Festival.
Look, right now, educational institutions are sitting at a massive inflection point. Continuing with this sort of ad hoc digital tool adoption, it literally exposes your institution to severe operational vulnerabilities, huge data sovereignty risks, and a glaring deficit in public trust. Sustainable transformation requires you, the decision makers, to move completely beyond those fragmented deployments. You really need to shift to proactive institutional agency. And what does that mean? It means deploying secure, governed cloud systems that align proactively with national mandates. It's for sure a complex journey, but at Webhostville Services, we actually simplify this entire process, ensuring your technology infrastructure, your data governance, and your human capacity development all work in perfect harmony.
So to make sense of all these rapid, fast-paced developments, we are going to pass this week's intelligence briefing directly through that 4-pillar AI Readiness Framework. We'll quickly look at infrastructure, data governance, human capacity, and strategic alignment, and then we'll wrap the whole thing up with your strategic action plan.
All right, let's jump straight into pillar number 1, infrastructure, or as we like to call it, your secure engine room.
So just this week, the federal government partnered up with NITDA to launch a national AI academy, which is delivering zero-cost training on their llama models. And hey, while building developer talent is absolutely critical, utilizing free tools without strict internal governance creates this massive problem known as shadow AI. You know, that unmanaged, totally undocumented use of AI tools floating around within your organization. The thing is, public initiatives rarely detail exactly how your institutional telemetry and your local datasets are shielded from external cloud extraction. If you aren't managing that environment yourself, these free developer tools easily turn into massive vectors for data leakage, literally extracting your indigenous intellectual capital right out the back door.
So the unspoken truth here is that to mitigate these risks, you have to proactively anchor those developer pipelines inside secure, managed cloud environments. You simply cannot afford unmanaged shadow infrastructure right now. Replacing all those fragmented digital tools with a sovereign governed ecosystem, like Google Workspace for Education, for example, ensures that as your staff and your students build up their AI competencies, they're doing it safely inside a walled garden, one that protects your institutional data and keeps you fully compliant with privacy mandates.
Okay, moving right along to our second pillar, data governance, moving beyond those black boxes.
This is a big one. Following the recent public disputes regarding WASI result processing, Zuriel Law Practice just issued a very strict 14-day legal ultimatum to the West African Examinations Council, WAAC. They are urgently demanding a rapid, fully independent technological audit of WAAC's computer-based examination and result processing architecture. What this situation brilliantly exposes is a rapidly growing super-urgent stakeholder demand for true algorithmic transparency and verifiable data integrity. The reality is, automated result processing mechanisms frequently lack transparent validation trails, and that leaves institutions completely defenseless when public disputes arise over how these automated decisions are actually being made.
Because at the end of the day, public trust hinges entirely on verifiable data integrity. Your systems have to eliminate algorithmic opacity. Global higher education coalitions are quite literally mandating explainable AI standards as we speak. So to defend your institution's credibility, you must rigorously enforce FATE across all your digital assessment workflows. That stands for fairness, accountability, transparency, and explainability. Without this transparent validation framework in place, institutional trust can basically collapse overnight.
Now, let's explore our third pillar, human capacity, and the rise of the teacher architect. Just this week, over 1,500 delegates converged in Abuja for the 2026 Africa Teachers Festival. Themed around transforming Africa's future, this massive convening featured these incredibly intensive workshops on digital tool integration and AI fluency. It really highlights this urgent Pan-African push to address foundational professional development gaps in our schools.
So the crucial takeaway here is this necessary evolution of the educator. Traditional training models have basically treated teachers as passive content conveyors. But let's be real, technology investments yield absolutely zero return without ethical human gatekeepers. We have to elevate our educators through these steps. We need to move them from being passive educators with no AI fluency, past simply being content conveyors who just know basic tool usage, and completely transform them into empowered teacher architects. A teacher architect is an active, confident designer of AI-mediated learning. They curate and govern AI tools within the classroom. Building this human capacity, it's completely non-negotiable if you want sustainable digital maturity.
And that builds directly into our fourth pillar, strategic alignment, which is essentially the ultimate litmus test.
By 2050, Africa's youth demographic is projected to constitute a massive 25% of the entire global workforce. Regional platforms are rapidly accelerating digital skills deployment to prepare this demographic for emerging tech labor markets. But listen, disjointed, localized implementation is incredibly dangerous here. If well-funded urban centers adopt advanced tools, while underserved institutions are left relying on ad hoc fragments, we risk drastically widening our regional digital divides.
So, true strategic alignment requires strict compliance with national mandates. In the Nigerian ecosystem, for example, that means adhering to NITDA data privacy mandates, NUC accreditation standards, and TET fund infrastructure financing guidelines. If you are operating under ad hoc adoption, you actually fail the Nigeria Data Protection Act standards. You actively widen the digital divide, and your learning ROI is completely fragmented. But in a governed ecosystem, AI becomes a true developmental equalizer for all learners, perfectly aligned with UN SDG 4. Your systems become fully auditable, and your learning outcomes become highly measurable and totally scalable.
Which brings us right to the final piece of the puzzle, your strategic action plan.
Navigating this huge shift toward true institutional agency is really complex, but you absolutely don't have to do it alone. Webhostville Services is actively onboarding forward-thinking institutions into our Strategic Infrastructure Partner Program to simplify this entire process for you. If you're currently evaluating your roadmap, or you just wish to discuss the practical application of this four-pillar framework within your specific context, I highly invite you to reach out to us. Let's run an end-to-end tech readiness audit for you. You can easily find us at webhostville.com. Email us directly at info@webhostville.com, or just connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube.
Thank you so much for your ongoing commitment to excellence in African education. As you review your technology investments this week, I want to leave you with this absolutely crucial question to bring back to your boardrooms today. In an era where trust and data sovereignty are paramount, how will true strategic alignment better serve your learners? Think about it, and we'll see you in the next explainer.